back to the afternoon session of the Board of County Commissioners. Today is still Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Next on our agenda is a Public Works item 7A, which is the first reading and setting the second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 25-04 in the matter of amending the Land Management Division's program fee schedule, which would be effective July 1st, 2025. And we have with us the Keir Miller, our LMD manager, to introduce the item and to guide us through it. Keir, take it away.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners. The Land Management Division is requesting that the board hold a second reading and set a public hearing for March 11th at 1:30 p.m. time certain to consider amendments to the Land Management Division's building program fee schedule pursuant to ORS 918-020-0220. Amendments to building program fees must be reviewed through a public hearing process, unlike other fees, with 45-day notice to the public. Notice has been provided to the public 45 days in advance of the hearing, and I'll be prepared with a full staff report at that date to answer any questions you might have, or any questions right now.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any questions from the board? This is just to simplify a first reading. The board is reminded that any substantive questions for staff or discussion of this matter would be reserved until the second reading as scheduled. This is so that members of the public with an interest in this matter will have the benefit of hearing those discussions. That said, we are through the question phase, and I think now we're ready for a motion. Yeah, Vice Chair.
I just have one quick question.
Oh, sorry, one quick question. Commissioner Trigger, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Keir. If we do get any inquiries from the public, should we direct those to you? Any questions about this item?
Yes, I would appreciate that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Farr.
And thank you, Chair. And I just reminded that this item did go through the Finance and Audit Committee, as does any fee adjustments. That is perfunctorily done, and Commissioner Buck and I serve on that with the Assessor, Pursuit Schaefer.
Anyone else? Okay, looking for a motion.
Yes, Chair. I move to set the second reading and public hearing on ordinance number 25-04 in the matter of amending the Land Management Division's building program fee schedule effective July 1st, 2025.
Do I have a second?
I'd second, but do we need to add the date of the second hearing? In that motion? Date and time? Or do we not?
It's not indicated in the board packet. I think that's, Keir, do you want to add this date on that? What do you think is important?
It's not, this isn't a quasi-judicial matter in the sense that it's a land use hearing, but I think it would be appropriate to set a time certain. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just, as seconder, suggest that we add it for March 11th, as noted in the memo at 1:30 p.m.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Maker of the motion, want to alter the motion? Yes. Thank you.
Is it at 11, you said?
1:30.
March 11th.
March 11th at 1:30.
Yes, I'll amend my motion. Start over. Setting the second reading and public hearing on ordinance number 25-04 in the matter of amending the Land Management Division's building program fee schedule effective July 1st, 2025 at a time certain of March 11th, 1:30 p.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I think that's just saying that we're going to set a public hearing for March 11th rather than
Second
approve it
reading.
on March 11th.
Yes.
Insert the second reading on that. Yeah, if you would, just for the record.
Setting the second reading and public hearing on ordinance number 25-04 in the matter of amending the Land Management Division's building program fee schedule for a time certain, March 11th at 1:30 p.m.
I think we got it.
All right, sounds good. We have a motion on the table and a second. We have a motion by Vice Chair Sennigan and a second by Commissioner Buck to move the second reading and public hearing on Order 2504 in the matter of amending the Land Management Division's building program fee schedule, which would be effective July 1st, 2025 for a time certain March 11th, 2025 at 1:30. Is there no discussion to the motion? I call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much. We will see you March 11th. All right, we have a little bit lighter end to this schedule now as we head into our exec session, our county
Still have an item, point of order.
administration. I'm getting to that
Oh, sorry.
right here.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Apologies.
We have a county administration item here for some announcements, and Mr. Mokryski,
Item 7.
oh, sorry, you're right, thank you. I have scrolled down too far, Brett, my apologies. We have Order B, an order 2502-2506 in the matter of amending Lanes Manual, Chapter 18.005.115 to adopt parking fee discounts for Lane County parks. And with us is Brett Henry, our Division Parks Manager. Brett, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Try to get this here in present mode. There we go. Okay. Yes, so we have a...
Brett, would you mind taking that mic just closer to you, sir?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
Yes, yes.
Pardon the interruption.
Is this better?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect, okay. Well, first of all, for the record, my name is Brett Henry. I'm the Parks Division Manager here at Lane County. First of all, I want to mention that it's a rather lengthy title, but I'm here today to talk about parking fee discounts. So, move on. Yeah, so we're going to start with describing the motion. You know, what we're looking at here is an amendment to parking fees. We're looking at amendment to Chapter 18 in the Lane Manual. And what we want to do is just have a little bit of discussion as well about some background. Lane County Parks has been working with the equity lens, and a lot of our projects and initiatives have reflected that equity component. Also want to touch a bit on policy. We'll take a look at the financial cost of these fee discounts, and I want to present the board with the three options, and then I'll talk about next steps. Yeah, so taking a look at the motion, we have an amendment, and this is for the veterans, and so I would say that the way it's structured now is a little strange, where we require disabled veterans to produce some sort of proof about how disabled they are. And so I figured that we would just make it a flat rate and offer 100% disability benefit there. And for veterans, it would be a half off or 50% disability. And so what we're looking at is the parking fees are $5 a day or $40 a year. So you can buy an annual parking pass for $40. And so the veterans would get that discount on the annual parking passes. Also looking at two additions. That is a free annual passes for women, infant, and children, or WIC recipients. Also taking a look at SNAP recipients. That's through the state. It's a little more complicated, so it's something that I'll bring forth later. But for this particular situation, we're also looking at some free parking holidays for the public. So it's a total 11 holidays where the public can park for free. So in the county strategic plan, goal number 5, foster an inclusive and equitable framework. I think that fits very well. That goal fits well with what we're doing here. We're reducing some financial barriers for accessing parks, and especially for those folks who have some food insecurity. We want to make sure that everybody can access county parks. So rather lengthy slide here, but just in general, I want to talk about the passage of the 5-year $30 million local option levy back in November of 2022. We have a lot of projects that are currently underway, And really with the help of many, Parks is applying this equity lens toolkit to a lot of our improvement projects. And, you know, as public servants, we feel very fortunate with the job that we do. We can put decisions into action, and I believe that we're enhancing equity by making our parks more accessible to the public. So taking a look at the equity survey, we launched an equity survey early 2023, and we really want to focus on 4 barriers to access. Those are cognitive, physical, socioeconomic, or financial, or cultural barriers. So I will come back in March and talk a bit more about the equity survey. I have a planned meeting here with the Board of Commissioners, so we'll go over it in more detail. But I will show you the results here. And so what we're looking at are lived experiences, folks who actually share lived experiences. And we received about 500 responses. And you can see every barrier there is somewhat significant. And but however, we want to really focus on the 2 barriers that were kind of separated themselves, you know, taking a look at the physical and financial barriers that impact people the most. So starting with the physical barriers, the Parks Department is focusing on doing an ADA assessment, and what we want to do is make sure that our parks meet accessibility standards. And so this is called a transition plan. It's usually a 5-year plan, 10-year plan to get the parks in shape. And some future projects I do want to mention here briefly. We're looking at a all abilities playground. This all abilities playground, we're trying to decide which park to put it in, but we want it to have the most impact. And we also want to look at some accessible trails and universally accessible trails and facilities. And so we think by adding these features, we have a good chance of meeting those accessibility standards that we put forth. So next is the Moby mats, and so this is another project that I believe greatly enhances access. And so with the Moby mats, they provide more stable surfacing, as you can see here on the sand. And so we put those out a little more than 200 feet. They extend from the parking area out to the beach, and it allows folks the ability, you know, to go out to the beach and spend time with their family that they never had an opportunity to do so before. So we think that they're being well used. And a lot of people ask me, do they stay out there permanently? They could, but in this location we do have some king tides, so we do roll them up for a couple months and then put them back down again. They're very, very easy to roll up and put up and down, so quite functional. Another thing that we've really embraced is called David's Chair. And looking at our first chair, we had a chair out at Asita Beach Park in Florence. That was kind of our guinea pig, so to speak. And we saw that a lot of folks were renting it out for free. And just a wonderful, wonderful kind of machinery. It's interesting how, you know, with this chair, it has tracks on it and it's motorized. So we're not just looking at different surfaces, but also different types of topography that, you know, allows folks to access. So and currently, we also have 2 chairs out at Howard Buford Park, and we're working on fundraising for a 3rd chair. We're really close to getting to that mark, and we're seeing that people are just there's no availability. They're renting them so fast, we can't keep up, so very well used. And lastly, I want to talk about what I think will be a groundbreaking project. Currently, we're doing planning and design for eventually constructing a fully ADA accessible pathway and adaptive launch. And so, once this is complete, the water access will be very unique in that this will be the first fully ADA accessible launch site on the Willamette River. And we believe that, there have been a segment of the population who have not had the opportunity to utilize ramps, boat ramps. And as you can see on the top right hand corner here of the screen, it'll look similar to that with the gangplank and the adaptable platform there. So switching gears, the second thing I want to focus on are financial barriers. And so what you're seeing here is just a portion of Chapter 18, Section 5.110, which cover parking fees. And so we're proposing an amendment to this, and if it's approved by the board, the amendment will make Lake County Parks more affordable to all residents. And so taking a look at the financial impact on the parks budget, a lot of numbers and percentages here, but pay attention to the bottom of the screen there in the gold font. The overall impact to our operating revenue is less than 1%, so it's pretty minimal, especially for the impact that it will provide. So before you today, commissioners, are three alternatives. The first one, to adopt a board order approving the proposed amendments to Lane Chapter 18. The second one is just approve some of the proposed parking fee adjustments. And lastly, do not recommend any of the proposed amendment to Chapter 18, Section 5, parking fees. So next steps. If some of these amendments actually pass through a board order, we'll work with Health and Human Services to integrate the parking passes with the registration through the WIC program. And we will also announce these fee changes on our parks website. We're actually doing a complete facelift, so to speak, with our website right now, and we think that it's going to be really impressive. But we also want to make sure that we're continuing to advertise these things on social media as well. So I really thank you for the opportunity to bring forth these changes, and look forward to any questions you may have for me.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Very good. Any comments or questions for him from the board? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Actually, just a declaration, Chair, I should have done this earlier. Potential conflict of interest. This is a discussion of a discount for veterans in parks, and I would be eligible for the discount. However, I typically pay full price for my ticket, so.
You and me both. Awesome. Yes, Commissioner Buck.
Yeah, I have a question on the slide with all the numbers.
Yes.
I just want to clarify something.
Back to that.
Because the way it's presented, I don't think it means exactly the way that that I'm seeing it presented. Yeah, that one.
Yes, that one there.
Yeah, so the bottom line says total impact to operating revenue, 10.8 million. And I
No,
don't.
that's not right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how that number got in.
I just wanted to verify that because I know that we don't even get 10 million in parking.
No. I think what happened
And if we
is-
did, we'd be in a different
Yeah,
budget
that's the
scenario.
overall operating revenue. That would be all of our operating revenue.
Okay, that's all your
That's not
operating.
an accurate figure. Gosh, let me make sure it's in, I guess I'll check later, but I'm pretty sure that slipped in there and that it's different within the board packet.
Do you know what the number is for the actual
Yes,
impact in
this
revenue?
is number 81,620.
Okay, that's what I figured. Thank you for the
Yeah, sure.
clarification.
I'm sorry for
Otherwise,
that.
I am
Good catch, by the way.
very
I
supportive.
didn't catch that one. Thank you. Any other questions you may have?
Vice Chair.
I had a quick question, Brett. I don't know if it might be buried in some of those numbers, but on the, eligible for a free pass, it says there's 21,000 people out of our total population.
So, yeah, so what I had our analysts do is to come up with the figures based upon how many folks are currently receiving the veteran benefits. And so, like, as I said earlier, there were disabled veterans. And we just wanted to kind of actually err on the side of it having more of an impact than it probably will. And so we just wanted to make sure that, we're looking at just an insignificant impact on the operating revenue. And we believe the benefits far outweigh that, though.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sorry, it was 21%, but it's 80,000 people, 80,767. Do you know how many of those are utilized?
I don't know exactly. I would guess that we're looking at less than 50%. We're looking at probably, and I don't think we've done a great job of letting people know that that's available. And so I think, with the improvements that we're going to make to the web pages and actually have a web page that's dedicated to accessibility, and we're going to make sure that we really get that message out there.
Well, not surprising. You were right on top. That's exactly where I was going. Are we doing everything we can to make sure people know these are available? So thanks, Brett. Sounds like you're already on it.
Yes, Commissioner Trigger.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure this is clear, but this is only for the annual passes. So the day use fee remains the same, no matter who's accessing at a day use basis, but it's just for the annual pass.
That's
The discount's
correct.
available. So it seems if we somehow communicating with day users who are currently paying is going to be our greatest opportunity to outreach to let folks know about this.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then my only other question is, I know it's a benefit, we have an agreement with the Arboretum, with Mount Pisgah Arboretum, that a benefit of membership is a free parking pass. Does
That's
this
correct.
impact that in any way? And do you know how many passes go to Arboretum members?
We figured that in to the calculation, so it will have no impact on their membership. So, yeah, it's a great incentive to become an Arboretum member, and that's not going to change.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Brett. Two really quick ones. The All Abilities Playground kind of caught my attention. You're kind of not knowing where you're going to put that. Do you want some suggestions, sir?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've looked at Armitage Park, we've looked at Orchard Point. We want to revitalize Orchard Point. With Armitage, we actually had a landscape architect look at some locations where we could put the structure. But yeah, I'm certainly open to any suggestions.
Yeah, that's great. And also what caught my eye too is that all access, I guess the launch, the docking launch and all that, and that's going to probably have to be strategically thought about too, because where they're launching, where they can get out if they're in the river. By the illustration, it almost looked like that was Dexter Lake in a thing. So I was just kind of curious where some of the ideas
Yeah.
on that are.
Yeah. So the tricky part of the design we're finding is the water fluctuates, right? So it's important that the gangway extends it out far enough, but also there should be the ability to remove it in the winter. So when the water recedes quite a bit, it wouldn't be usable. But we would make sure that it would be usable during the height of the recreation, which would be the summer months.
Right, awesome. Good deal. And pertaining to Commissioner Seneca's question, when he said about the total of people, I'm just kind of wondering if we're talking about a less than a 1% impact financially from just annual fees, I'm wondering if there's an opposite impact of more users coming that would also gain more maintenance. I'm sure you've thought of that too, so.
Yeah, and we didn't factor that in. And we're also looking at these day fees that Commissioner Trieger mentioned. There's a possibility that we could eliminate the day use fees at our landings. And what would offset that revenue would be funds that we receive every year from the Oregon State Marine Board. So they have what are called MAP funds, Marine Assistance Program funds, that actually are supposed to be dedicated towards maintaining long-term, these water access sites. If you're charging a fee, you're not eligible for those funds. So we're going to do some work and see if that would pay off. I don't think that would certainly be popular with folks, but it may actually have a kind of a blessing in disguise, so to speak. So yes, that's a really good point, and we didn't factor that in. So I would measure to say with better publicity and a pretty large segment of the population that may have some mobility challenges will be able to take advantage of this.
Awesome, good deal.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from Senator? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Just a quick question, kind of a softball question. We have a new member with us today, that is Council Rob Bovet. How many county parks do we have, and how many boat landings do we operate?
That's a good question. So we're currently at 66 parks. And so it's a good number of parks, but they're really spread out. We're looking at the parks obviously on the coast, and then quite a few in the valley, some all the way south of Cottage Grove, and then all the way east to the Cascade Mountain Range. So quite a few.
And this many boat ramps?
Boat ramps, yeah, like 35 is what we've counted. When I started back in 2018, we were maintaining a lot of other folks' properties. And so we've tried to restructure some of these contracts to just focus on our properties that we own. And a lot of those were boat landings. So we're looking at about 35 right now.
And Mr. Mokaraiski, it still is a requirement that new employees visit all parks within 2 weeks, right?
As far as I'm aware. I'll volunteer.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And also, I all the time I have county employees that say, well, you should make, these parking passes available for all county employees. So that's always interesting. But yeah, I'm just, this is, again, just a second measure that we're putting forth to improve the accessibility of our parks.
Thank you, Brad.
Good work. There's no more discussion. I'm open for a motion.
Yes, Chair, I move to approve Order 25-02-25-06 in the matter of amending Lane Manual, Chapter 18.005.115 to adopt parking fee discounts for Lane County parks.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor by Vice Chair to approve the changes to Lane County Parks parking fees and to amend annual pass discounts for qualified veterans and disabled veterans, and to offer free annual parking passes for women, infant, and children, WIC program recipients, and to add parking holidays per Board Order 2502-2506. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Brett. As always, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Oh, that's one.
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to take one.
Oh.
I think we are.
Take one, pass it down.
We're not clear, sorry.
This is going to be, I assume, part of Mr. Mokrehysky, excuse me, announcement section is County Admin number 8 section. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes.
Take it away.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. So I handed out to you a draft list of board work sessions for this year. You'll see we have work sessions identified over the next 4 months. We don't have anything scheduled at this point past July. This is sort of a new process that we're going through this year to try to be more proactive in identifying the work sessions that we have planning, that we're planning to bring forward to the board. So what we've done is we've asked, I'll go through these briefly, and I'm not asking you to provide feedback now unless you'd like to, but giving you this to reflect on and hoping that at the March 11th meeting, your next meeting, we could have a discussion on it and you can provide some additional feedback if there are additional topics you'd like for us to work on scheduling work sessions for. What we've done so far is ask all of our departments to provide information that they're aware of topics that the departments are planning to bring forward for work sessions. So you'll see on there, 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago, we had a work session on the Lane Stabilization Center. Tomorrow, you will have a work session on the strategic plan. That's the first of 2 work sessions. That's 3 hours tomorrow, and then another 3 hours you'll see later on June 11th. Sorry, where is that? That's
19th.
on March 19th. So tomorrow and then March 19th, you'll have strategic planning work sessions. You have 3 work sessions in March related to land management, one on housing in residential areas, clear standards for housing in residential areas, one on urban growth strategies, an update featuring the Eugene Comprehensive Plan and land use map, and then another LMD item related to an overview of lawfully established units and property line adjustments. We also have a work session March 12th on the Lane Event Center Master Plan. And then if you look to April, we have, and these are all sort of tentative. The closer we get to these dates, we'll refine them and they'll get locked in. But we are planning to do a work session on the draft board norms and the board's working agreement that you worked on last year on April 9th. A work session is planned on April 30th regarding cybersecurity. You'll see in May, because we have the budget committee, we're trying to, we'll have some budget committee meetings that will happen on a Wednesday, usually in the afternoon. So we're trying to preserve your mornings, those Wednesday mornings, so you don't have a 3-hour work session and then an afternoon budget committee meeting that's going to get really long, plus a Tuesday all-day board meeting. So we'll try to hold May as much as possible with limiting the number of work sessions we have there. You'll see June 11th is the last one we have tentatively scheduled so far, and that's for the Policy Lab presentations that we have the University of Oregon students that participate in the Policy Lab do their presentations then. The 2 others that I'm aware of that are not reflected on here yet, we don't have dates identified, are one on housing production. Eric Mongan, who's our housing production specialist, is planning to come forward with he's been working on identifying residential and commercial properties and industrial properties that are developable, particularly in unincorporated areas, and having conversation with commissioners about that. So that's another one that's out there. And then we have 1 or more work sessions that have been contemplated regarding economic development, various economic development discussions. So just kind of put those in the back of your mind. Those 2 are not reflected here. So again, I had committed that we would bring back to you an idea of the work sessions. Again, this is an idea. The idea here is just to be a little more proactive in identifying the topics we're going to bring to the board. Make sure this meets your needs. And particularly as we think about the strategic plan, you're going to have that 3-hour session tomorrow. You start thinking about what are the priorities that the board is interested in. What topics would you like as those things evolve, those priorities that the board starts to identify, and we hear from employees and from residents that they want us working on, what are the topics that you would like for us to plan for? So again, I'm happy to take feedback if you have any now, but really just asking that you review that, follow up with me if you want to talk about some of those things, and then on March 11th, it would be great if we could get any additional feedback. Or, we could do that under county administrator announcements, or if we want to schedule an item for the board specifically to talk about work sessions, we can do that as well.
Commissioner Trigger.
Thank you. Thank you for this. It's helpful. Just because, for the interest of being able to schedule as far in advance, you have something scheduled on April 9th. That week is the United Front trip, and I don't think we've affirmatively designated a representative, but we will be down a board member that week, and that is a very board-specific item, so maybe reconsider the date on that. And then as for other topics, I can't remember now when the reps from OGEC were here a couple of months ago, there was a second unit they were going to bring back at some point. I can't remember what that was on, but I don't know if there's some coordination to do with OGEC staff, if that's something we would do on a Wednesday morning around
Did you receive the training from OGEC on the new changes to the public meeting?
public meetings law, but there was another section they talked about coming back to do.
Probably ethics then, I would imagine.
Thank you.
Or executive sessions, I'm not sure.
Yeah, great catch.
Yeah, and good point about United Front. We just sort of slotted the board norms, I think, in there, so that we may not have identified that as a potential conflict. You'll see on the far right there, the absences. This is just, we try to track. We know when commissioners tell us, and please do, if you know you're not going to make a meeting, it's helpful for us to plan, because we'll try as best we can, to not, particularly if it's a county-related, board designated thing like the United Front, to really try to limit. It's hard to stop business completely, but try to limit the things that are policy-related, work session-related, big actions that you may need to take. So that's definitely one, Commissioner, that we will look to move. The other thing I want to just throw out there with Mr. Bovet here is we certainly, there may be some benefit in asking county council also to go through and say, hey, what do we know, what do you want to do in terms of exec sessions? And what's the rhythm on, today you're going to have an update on outstanding litigation. How many times a year do you want to do that? Are there, oftentimes exec sessions happen sort of within a week or two, an issue comes up or something happens that we need to get in front of the board, and so it's difficult to plan for those long in advance, but there may be, work sessions can be the same thing. It could be that a topic will come up and the board will say, hey, we want to do a work session in a few weeks, and we didn't plan for that. That's okay. But we're just trying to identify the things here that we know we want to talk to you about, dive into, and again, as it relates to legal matters that county counsel's office may want to bring forward, that are known at least, to plan for that would be something we can certainly consider doing.
I certainly have plenty of ideas, but I don't want to take up your time now on all of the topics that the administrator just mentioned. But I'll float those by you in due course.
All right, look forward to it.
I should say, I have been watching some of your recent meetings, and I noticed there was a reference to maybe a training on public meetings law from a practical matter, including Robert's Rules of Order, how all that fits. And having just ended my service with the Rules Advisory Committee for OGEC on the public meetings law rules, and having crafted those new laws that just went into effect, I'm more than happy to do that kind of training. I did in Washington County for our folks there and the Planning Commission there. So I'm more than happy to do that kind of training at any of these potential sessions. And I do have thoughts about options on executive sessions to maybe make them a little easier potentially, but I need to get better flavor for what you all are looking for. Is it too much? Is it too little? But I'll figure all that out as I keep talking to you.
Awesome. Well, welcome again, sir. Appreciate you being here. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can move on to commissioner business. Now, bear in mind, we did punt a little bit this morning, and we had our remonstrance comments for this time slot. If you also want to do that as well as announcements, you're welcome to do that. Anything seeing fitting, you're welcome to share. Who wants to go first? Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. I think I just want to acknowledge, just in case anyone's tuning back in, how phenomenal it was to see such a great turnout from the community, but also how deeply distressing it is, really, that people have to come out in such a way and are so evidently distressed. I'm sort of imagining, you know, our meetings are recorded for forever and ever, and somebody might tune in sometime years in the future and look back on this time where we had a federal government that was explicitly seeking to harm people, including and particularly youth. And so I'm really thinking a lot, and when we get to assignments, maybe try to figure out how to express one. But we have some states, thankfully, including our own here in Oregon, that are doing the right thing and proactively seeking to be as protective as possible for folks who are under threat right now. Even as, you know, the holder of the highest office in this land is seeking to override or undo those protections. It's both uplifting and heartening to see so many people care so deeply about each other that they would turn out, but really distressing that the reason for which they have to do so. I also really have to express my objection and concern with the chair's continued practice of exploiting his role as the chair to make comments before gaveling in. When we have a captive audience and the tape is rolling, particularly without remonstrance and so on in the morning when folks are in the audience and other commissioners don't have the opportunity to speak. The role of the chair is to run the meetings, and so using that role to make statements, I'm still not clear. Maybe this is an opportunity for our new council to offer us some guidance in making comments as an individual before the gavel, what the relevance or suitability of that is, but I do want to express my continued objection and concern about that, what seems to be becoming a regular practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to remind folks that there is a second citywide healthcare forum coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Willamette Christian Center. And for those who may not have attended the first one, it was really well done, put on by folks that are also participants in the Churchill Neighborhood Association. But this was born out of the closure of the downtown Peace Health Hospital and trying to seek ideas and opportunities for how to care for folks that now have to travel long distances to get to Peace Health in Springfield. These have been really wonderful. There are also going to be booths and information for people to go to if they're trying to seek resources before it begins. It's 2 to 4, so I would highly suggest if you weren't able to participate in the first one, that I think the second one may be even better. And they have great speakers, including our own director, Eve Gray, and many others, including legislators. I just highly recommend people going. And kind of in response to Commissioner Traeger's comments, I too am concerned about the chair speaking individually before the meetings begin. I don't know how that works, because when you hit the gavel, that's when they know to start recording. And that's when our public meeting opens, and none of the rest of us got that opportunity. And we're all equal commissioners. And the change in remonstrance to the end, allows for the remainder of us to have remonstrance, but the audience is gone. And that doesn't, it seems odd, but it's also concerning because it doesn't give us all an equal opportunity if we wanted to address people as well. So I would hope that the chair would reconsider that, and I would also ask that our county council look into what are the legalities about that for an individual commissioner speaking prior to the board meeting even gaveling in and having a private audience. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. You know, as I look in my rearview mirror, there's a lot more back there than there used to be. That is to say, I know a lot of history. And I've been around longer than a lot of folks in this room in Lane County and then at this podium and with Peace Health for that matter. And as we talk about Peace Health closing down their campus operation, it reminds me of back in the mid-1990s when I was on the Eugene City Council, and Peace Health was going to build a new hospital in North Eugene. It was zoned hospital, and it was going to be a wonderful hospital. The plans were all laid. They were in the process of purchasing property, and the Eugene City Council decided on a 7-to-1 vote, and I was the one, to rezone that property so a hospital couldn't be built there, because a couple of councilors wanted to build a hospital downtown Eugene, and they were pretty well convinced if they rezoned that property out on Chad Drive, which is mostly apartments, a little bit of commercial today, would have been a hospital. When they rezoned that property, the Peace Health said, no, we're not going downtown Eugene, never had any plan to, and now we have a hospital in Springfield and no hospitals in Eugene. So bemoaning how things happen, we have to remember that when people look in the rearview mirror, they get a clearer view of what we did, what we said, and how we act than we sometimes have when we just sit right here and start talking about each other, you know. So I'm looking forward, Mr. Mokrzycki, to, let's see, what date is it? It's 4/9, Draft Board Norms, Strategic Framework, Working Agreements, and Rules of Procedure. I am so looking forward to that because it kind of makes me bristle when we start talking about each other up here.
Thank you. I've got a little bit of news today that I'd like to share. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Sanaga, go right ahead, sir. My apologies.
Well, I just wanted to take a second, like, as Commissioner Trigger mentioned, if somebody tunes back in, to let everybody know how much I appreciate them coming out. We did some counting. It wasn't the most speakers we've ever had since I've been here, but it's certainly the most people we've ever had. The BCC conference room was packed, and it takes a lot of gumption to come up here and speak, especially when the room is completely packed like that. So, good, robust conversation, and I think that was a great indicator of how diverse this county we are lucky enough to live in is. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with all your sentiments about the folks that came today. It was a packed house, and it was pleasantly civil. There was people who didn't agree, but yet we all got to speak our minds to our government, which is the highest honor that we have, and one of my highest priorities as an elected official, to make sure that those people have a voice. Every person has a voice. So I have a little bit of good news today. Today marks the 140th anniversary of Springfield being a city. Thought that was worthy of note. Its lively history started as a beer hop farming and growing area. Who would have thought? In the turn of the 19th century, it became one of the largest players in the timber industry. And still today, we're still home to some of the largest producers of wood products in North America. We also have clawed our way to the top of every other Springfield in the nation to be the undisputed official home of the Simpsons. So that's something to brag about. We're building and continue to be a purposeful community to attract investable places for businesses can come and thrive, and where everyone is welcome to come and dream and thrive in their own way. So we invite you to make your way over to our thriving downtown and take a selfie in front of the famous Simpson mural at the corner of 5th and Main Street. And remember to wish all Springfieldians a happy anniversary today. So thank you for that. Any future board assignments that we would like to make at this time? Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you. I think it's partly, I'm not sure it's an assignment or just asking the administrator for maybe an update on the status of an assignment. We had a number of people come out to public comment this morning and in previous weeks asking for a public statement from this board / the county, declaring a commitment to provide the greatest protections possible for people at risk. And I know we have an open assignment that sort of speaks to that. And if you can't bring it up off top of mind, maybe it's a request for next week for you to come back and share a little bit the status of the open assignment or the next time we have a board meeting. I know it was mentioned by some the idea of a joint statement on behalf of all the county elected officials. So that would be these 5 board members plus our sheriff, our DA, our assessor. I think there were a couple of different asks, but clearly it's really important to the public to hear a proactive declarative statement. However, I also recognize that there may not be a definition, right? The Sanctuary Promise Law has very specific legal parameters relating to cooperation between different public entities. It's a little clearer to make an affirmative statement that we will follow that law versus create some kind of sanctuary or whatever you want to call it. But I think we're hearing consistently enough from enough people a call for that, and so would love to hear an update on that assignment. And then just remind, my colleagues, as we've talked about before, we all have our own personal platforms and opportunities to speak. At the dais, we're here to do the business of the county as a body, and individual remarks as individual commissioners. We have lots of other opportunities and ways to make those kind of statements in the community and respond to folks. And we have a little more liberty as far as what we can say in that regard than an official statement. But I'm glad we have our new county council with us. I imagine this open assignment that I'm referencing is maybe waiting a little bit for the support of the now on board county council to help with how we word that. But I want to be sure that we are keeping that elevated in our priorities and responding to the community. Thank you.
I'm happy to, if you'd like. I was trying to pull that up, Commissioner Trieger, the last assignment you referred to. I wasn't able to get it up here. I did talk to county administration staff at the break about that assignment, and I don't have an update for you right now on where that is at. My understanding was that there was this request this morning, I know, from members of the public about, a statement for, and that will be up to the board to decide. But my understanding is that prior assignment didn't relate specifically to sort of address some other issues that have been previously brought up, but not necessarily the specific request that was brought up today. So I will be prepared at the next board meeting to give you an update on that assignment. And I'd say if the board wishes to pursue the specific requests that were brought up this morning, that's an assignment you can make.
Consider it made if there are head nods.
I have wording for that if we,
If I can add?
yes, go ahead, Commissioner Buck.
Given the amount of folks that came in today, I feel like time is of the essence on this particular item in front of us. We've had people come and speak to us pretty regularly all year long so far. But the feeling I got from a lot of the folks in the room was that the longer we don't say anything or we don't make a declarative statement as a board, the more anxiety, angst, and fear that grows in our community. And we, of course, cannot compel any of the other elected officials to join us in that statement, but we can surely draft something and invite them to join in. And although, we don't have a meeting for 2 weeks after this, and then we still have to craft something and get it into an actual meeting, like we could be another month out. And I'm concerned that extension of time in response to the community's input to us is too delayed. So I'm just hoping we as a board and our staff can find ways in which to move this along.
Thank you. I was privy to that meeting post the morning session with Mr. Mokrasky and some of our staff, and we have crafted a board assignment that, if it's willing to the board, I'd like to share that I think you're right. I do agree with the sense of urgency. I also think that because we're down for a week, it would give staff a time to research this a little bit more thoroughly before we can articulate a proclamation or something, statement that we all want to say. I do hear the public fear and angst growing. It's palatable and it's noticeable in the numbers of people here. So if it would be okay with the board, I'd like to offer this for at least a discussion. I'd like to direct staff to work with other elected officials on crafting language that reinforces that the county's support for state sanctuary laws, as well as support for protecting the rights of all members of the Lane County community, including historically marginalized groups. I'm open for comments. Yes, Commissioner Farr.
No, not a comment, just a thumbs up toward that. Other than, the assignment that was first made was in the first meeting of the year. And it really was more general as to what are sanctuary laws in Oregon. And this is a proactive step toward actually making a pronunciation or an announcement from the dais here. So I think moving in the right direction, Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Trigger.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you were ready with it. My preference is that when it comes time to actually craft the language, I'm going to be looking for something that is a lot more explicit and specific about our trans community and about immigrants, documented and undocumented.
Fair? Sure? Good? Okay. So do you want me to repeat that then for you, Mr. Mokrasky? Would that be helpful?
You read it?
I did.
I think we have it. If you want to repeat it again, you can, but I think that's good. Was there a clarification? I didn't catch, sorry, I didn't catch what Commissioner Trigger, if there was something.
Commissioner Trigger and Commissioner Buckhead cited that there was going to be some things specifically they were going to look at in the language and specifics
Okay,
about
so
groups of
we'll
folks.
follow that assignment if there's head
Get a
nods
draft
and
out,
then
get people
you'll-
looking at it, right? Yeah, good. Okay. Review of this, oh, sorry, Vice Chair, go ahead.
Yes. I've got an assignment. Following our Clean Lane discussion with Director Hurley last time, I was wondering if we could do a board work session on that with concerns about the waste stream that he had mentioned and exploring what that looks like with revenues down. And I don't know if he has it, but I wanted to get some time with him and go over some of the questions I have a little more in depth and give him time to explore those and come to us with answers or solutions.
Okay, got that. Mr. Mokrasky, review of the assignments, please.
I just want to make sure we have three commissioners. Okay, good.
Yep.
So the first one is the,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Vice
I was
Chair's
just
got a
gonna
comment.
say,
I'm sorry, to interrupt.
Mr. Mokrasky and I spoke about this, and I believe April 2nd was available for that to come back possibly. Yesterday when we were,
yeah, the issue is we have a couple commissioners that, I talked to the board coordinator this morning about April 2nd, and she suggested maybe not that date. So yes, I did say that to you before I knew we had a couple commissioners that were not here.
Gotcha.
It does look like April 23rd potentially is, we don't have any commissioners that are gone, and we don't have anything scheduled there. So depending on the
Perfect.
timing of that one looks open.
yeah, absolutely.
So just, I have those two assignments, the one that Commissioner Lovell referenced regarding working with our sheriff and DA and drafting a letter regarding sanctuary and support for our entire community, and then Commissioner Senega's request for a work session on the Clean Lane project specifically regarding waste stream questions and concerns.
All right, super. Is there any other business for the order today? If not, we had need for executive session. Allow me to read us in. The Board of County Commissioners will now meet in one executive session. The session is to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed, and to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602H and ORS 192.6602F, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are precluded from attending. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. Members of the news media are not allowed to tape, video record, or otherwise record the exec session, and verbatim notes are prohibited. No decision may be made in executive session. After this executive session concludes, we will return to public session tomorrow, Wednesday, February 26th at 9 a.m. in the board conference room. We are recessed. Thank you.